Finding Nemo. Bedtime Short Stories. This is a short story from Disney. Finding Nemo. Nemo was a little clownfish who lived a quiet life with his dad, Marlin, on the Great Barrier Reef. Nemo longed for adventure, but Marlin worried about the dangers in the ocean. He barely let Nemo out of his sight. On the first day of school, Marlin overheard Nemo and his new friends daring each other to swim out over a steep cliff. "Come on, Nemo. How far can you go?" his friends shouted. Marlin panicked and said, "Nemo, you know you can't swim well." Nemo replied, "I can swim fine, Dad." "Okay." Nemo darted up toward a boat on the surface. As Nemo swam, a diver appeared behind him. The diver pulled out a net and caught Nemo. Then, he returned to his boat and sped off, accidentally knocking one of his masks overboard. Marlin chased after the boat, but it was too fast. Finding Nemo image source at www.morganerlewiswordpress.com. Marlin soon bumped into a blue tang fish named Dory who offered to help. "I've seen that boat and it went this way. Follow me," Dory said. When Marlin followed, Dory whirled around. Marlin started following Dory when suddenly Dory said, "Stop following me." On this, Marlin said, "You promised me to show the way where that boat went." Dory looked surprised, then shook her head sadly and told him that she had been suffering from short-term memory loss. Figuring Dory couldn't help him, Marlin turned to leave and found himself face to face with a shark. The shark invited Dory and Marlin to a get-together in an old sunken ship. Inside the ship were two other sharks, and together they pledged, "Fish are friends, not food." As they spoke, Marlin looked up and saw the diver's mask. Dory noticed some writing on the scrap. It might be a clue to help them in finding Nemo. Marin and Dory quickly left the party carrying the mask. Miles away, Nemo had been taken to a dentist's office. A goofy gang of tropical fish lived there. The fish and their friends Nigel, a pelican, passed the time by watching the dentist work. That night, Nemo learned that he would be given to Darla, the dentist's niece. The tank gang warned him that Darla's fish never lived for very long. Their leader Gil took charge and said, "We're going to help him escape." Gil explained that if someone could jam the water filter, the dentist would take the fish out of the tank to clean it. When he put the fish in the plastic bags, they could escape by rolling out the window and into the harbor. But who would be brave enough to break the dangerous filter? Deep in the ocean, Dory and Marlin were in a dark canyon. Marlin struggled to hold on to the lighted antenna of a dangerous anglerfish so that Dory could read what was written on the mask. P. Sherman, 42. Wallaby Way, Sydney. She read. Marlin and Dory headed to Sydney. Suddenly, Dory bumped into a teeny-tiny jellyfish called Squishy, but she was not alone. Also read. Finding Dory. Soon, they were surrounded by an entire forest of deadly jellyfish. The jellyfish stung Dory and Marlin too, making them feel weak and tired. As the ocean faded around him, the last thing Marlin saw was the shadow of a giant sea turtle. When Marlin woke up, he was lying on the sea turtle's shell. The turtle introduced himself. Dude name's Crush. Finding Nemo image source at www.mediascldyorku.ca. Marlin told Crush and his son, Squirt, the story of his search for Nemo. Squirt told a story to a lobster. The lobster told a dolphin. And soon the news spread all the way to Sydney, where Nigel, the pelican, heard it. Nigel sped off to the dentist's office to tell Nemo, "Your dad's fighting the entire ocean looking for you. And the word is, he's headed this way right now to Sydney," said Nigel. Nemo was happy to hear that and realized if he was ever going to get home, he had to be brave. He took a deep breath and carefully jammed a pebble into the tank's filter, stopping its swirling blades. Soon, the tank would be so dirty, the dentist would have to clean it. But, the next morning, the tank was still clean. The filter had been changed during the night, ruining their escape plan. Then, the dentist slipped the net into the water, capturing Nemo. The dentist started to hand Darla the bag, but then he saw Nemo inside, belly up. Nemo winked at his friends. He was only pretending to be dead. The gang cheered and shouted, "He's going to get flushed down the toilet. He's going to get out of here." Outside Sydney, Marlin and Dory had met Nigel, who flew them straight to the dentist's office. The pelican soared inside with the two fish in his beak. Marlin saw Nemo floating upside down in the bag and he thought that his son was dead. Nigel returned to the harbor. He dropped Marlin and Dory into the water. Marlin swam out to sea, leaving Dory. He said, "We were too late. I'm going home now." After Marlin left, Nemo swam out of a nearby pipe. He had been flushed. Nemo spotted Dory swimming in circles and introduced himself. Dory hugged him happily. Nemo and Dory searched for Marlin, spotting him in the nearby fishing grounds. Finally, they saw each other. As they swam towards each other, a big net dropped into the water and captured lots of fish, including Dory. But Nemo knew exactly what to do. Nemo said, "Tell all the fish to swim down." Together, the fish swam down until the net broke. Everyone was free. Several weeks later, Nemo was back home and ready for school. This time, Marlin was ready too. He knew that his son could take care of himself. Nemo waved as he swam away. He swam back and hugged Marlin and said, "Love you, Dad." Marlin smiled and said, "Love you too, son. Now go. Have an adventure." Nemo has all of the usual pleasures of the Pixar animation style. The comedy and wackiness of Toy Story or Monsters, Inc. or A Bug's Life. And it adds an unexpected beauty, a use of color and form that makes it one of those rare movies where I wanted to sit in the front row and let the images wash out to the edges of my field of vision. The movie takes place almost entirely under the sea, in the world of colorful tropical fish, the flora and fauna of a shallow warm water shelf not far from Australia. The use of color, form and movement make the film a delight even apart from its story. There is a story, though. One of those Pixar inventions that involves kids on the action level while adults are amused because of the satire and human or fishy comedy. The movie involves the adventures of Little Nemo, a clownfish born with an undersized fin and an oversized curiosity. His father, Marlin, worries obsessively over him, because Nemo is all he has left. Nemo's mother and all of her other eggs were lost to barracudas. When Nemo goes off on his first day of school, Marlin warns him to stay with the class and avoid the dangers of the drop-off to deep water. But Nemo forgets, and ends up as a captive in the saltwater aquarium of a dentist in Sydney. Marlin swims off bravely to find his missing boy, aided by Dory, a blue tang with enormous eyes who he meets along the way. 10 interesting facts about Earth's oceans. These characters are voiced by actors whose own personal mannerisms are well known to us. I recognized most of the voices, but even the unidentified ones carried buried associations from movie roles. And so somehow the fish take on qualities of human personalities. Marlin, for example, is played by Albert Brooks as an overprotective, neurotic worrywart, and Dory is Ellen DeGeneres as helpful, cheerful and scatterbrained. She has a problem with short-term memory. The Pixar computer animators, led by writer-director Andrew Stanton, create an undersea world that is just a shade murky, as it should be. We can't see as far or as sharply in sea water, and so threats materialize more quickly, and everything has a softness of focus. There is something dreamlike about the visuals of Finding Nemo, something that evokes the reverie of scuba diving. The picture's great inspiration is to leave the sea by transporting Nemo to that big tank in the dentist's office. In it we meet other captives, including the Moorish idol Fishkill voiced by Willem Dafoe, who are planning an escape. Now it might seem to us that there is no possible way a fish can escape from an aquarium in an office and get out of the window and across the highway and into the sea. But there is no accounting for the ingenuity of these creatures, especially since they have help from a conspirator on the outside, a pelican with the voice of Geoffrey Rush. It may occur to you that many pelicans make a living by eating fish, not rescuing them. But some of the characters in this movie have evolved admirably into vegetarians. As Marlin and Dory conduct their odyssey, for example, they encounter 3 carnivores who have formed a chapter of Fish Eaters Anonymous, and chant slogans to remind them that they abstain from fin-based meals. The first scenes in Finding Nemo are a little unsettling, as we realize the movie is going to be about fish, not people or people-based characters like toys and monsters. But of course animation has long since learned to enlist all other species in the human race, and to care about fish quickly becomes as easy as caring about mice or ducks or Bambi. When I review a movie like Finding Nemo, I am aware that most members of its primary audience do not read reviews. Their parents do, and to them and adults who do not have children as an excuse, I can say that Finding Nemo is a pleasure for grown-ups. There are jokes we get that the kids don't, and the complexity of Albert Brooks' neuroses, and that enormous canvas filled with creatures that have some of the same hypnotic beauty as, well, fish in an aquarium. They may appreciate another novelty. This time the dad is the hero of the story. Although in most animation it is almost always the mother. Roger Ebert. Roger Ebert was the film critic of